Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. I was listening to a interview recently with Toby and they were discussing a particular preparedness principle called baseline. And now I've done some of the things that they were discussing in that, but I never knew there was a specific term for it. And it's just one of the things that I've learned from Toby and from Selco over the years. I've gotten a lot out of their material, and this is just one more thing that I've learned from those guys. Um, but basically, what baseline is a level of both your physical environment and your social environment where you can analyze what's going on around you, and it's kind of like a early warning system for something not being within a normal limit. I guess that's my best way of how I interpret what the baseline principle is. And what I did was, after I listened to that interview, I got a hold of Toby and I asked him. I said, "Hey, this would make a good video because I don't think a lot of people are familiar with this term and this principle." And he was actually kind enough to give me a little bit of his time, and he pretty much gave me an in-depth conversation on the baseline principle as they discuss it and they teach it in their survival classes. And I was very fortunate to have that time with him. And I asked him, I said, this would be a good video, something that I could bring to you guys so, you guys can know as well. And he agreed, so that's why I'm doing this video. And I'm actually going to kind of share my interpretation of this baseline principle. Plus, I'm going to share a couple experiences that I had that basically illustrate those principles. And, what baseline is it's just it's looking at your environment around you, and what is kind of a normal line, a normal baseline. That's why I always wear these old sweatshirts that you see me in my videos here, because it's that's kind of what people wear around here. People don't really wear fancy clothes, and I want to fit in basically with the crowd. So I just want to lay low, and for a better term, be a gray man. And doing that means dressing like everybody else, and that's kind of why you always see me in some kind of beat up sweatshirt in all my videos, because that's the baseline around me for how people dress. And that's just one example of baseline. Now, how it was explained in that interview, it was explained as it's an absence of the normal or the presence of the abnormal of the normal environment that you're around. Now, it can be, in your physical environment, but it can also be social interactions with other people. And, I'll give you an example. This is an easy example of being out in the woods. The woods has got birds chirping, it's got squirrels feeding. And when you walk out in that woods, that baseline is disrupted. The birds fly away, the squirrels go hide, and everything is quiet for a while. And that's because you walked out in the woods and you disturbed that baseline. So you can interact. It's not only an observation tool, but you can also interact with the baseline around you, and you can disturb that. And one classic example of the observation aspect of the baseline is this particular incident that I had happen to me years ago when we were hiking. And I think this is a really good example that I can explain to you guys, that I noticed something was out of the ordinary. And what it was is we were going hiking. Now, when I hike, I usually carry some type of concealed carry or open carry handgun with me. This particular time I was concealed carrying, and we were hiking to a secluded waterfall up north in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. And this particular trailhead was like 40 miles from anywhere, and it was another mile and a half walk back to where the waterfall was. So the whole family was along, the wife, the kids. We got back there, and everything seemed normal. There was, my wife, she's a rock hound. She went and she did her thing looking for rocks. My kids went down in the water to play. I was just taking in nature. There was a couple of girls there that were swimming, and they were in bikinis, probably in their early 20s. Everything seemed relatively normal. And after we were there a little bit, this guy walked out above us on an outcropping of rock, and he was wearing blue jeans, and he was wearing a black t-shirt, and he was wearing engineer's boots, and he got down on his haunches and he lit a cigarette, and he was watching those girls that were swimming wearing the bikinis. And that didn't seem right. And that right there is a classic example of the presence of the abnormal. That was not a normal thing. He did not belong there. And I actually motioned kind of to my wife nonchalantly, and we kind of talked a little bit, and I said, hey, does that look normal to you? No, that doesn't look normal. And we had a little bit of a conversation. I said, why don't you go down and talk to them girls and see once, what's going on with them. And she did that, and we kind of decided that we were going to stick around until till those girls were done swimming and we were going to all walk out together. I thought that that was prudent just for safety's sake. And after that guy smoked about 6 cigarettes, he got up, walked back into the bush, never seen him again. What he was doing there, I have no idea, but it was one of those things, it set my radar off right away. And with this baseline principle, it's a perfect example of that baseline of what I thought that should be back there. That was completely disrupted by his presence. Now, like I said, you can disrupt baseline just by your presence in a situation. And I'm going to share another example with you guys that happened to me years ago when I was going to apply for a job down in Detroit. And I was actually applying for a union job at a union hall. And the union hall was the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. So I went down into Detroit to apply for this job. And this was in a particularly kind of rough part of town. Well, I couldn't find it. This was before GPS and all that stuff. So I was looking for this place, couldn't really find it. So I decided to drive around and see if I could find a place where I could ask for some directions. Well, I seen the Detroit Edison Payment Center. And I'm thinking to myself, well, Detroit Edison Payment Center, it's Detroit Edison. They're going to know where the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Union Hall is. So I parked, got out, walked in. There was probably 100 black people in there all paying their bill or doing their business at that particular time. When I walked into that door, everything stopped. Everybody turned and looked at me. And I knew right away, I got to do something with this situation here because, this isn't a good situation for me. So I walked over to a mountain of a man who was sitting on a bit of a bar stool, and I took him to be some kind of security or some kind of bouncer that was in that big old room. And I started having a conversation with him. I said, hey, I'm looking for the union hall and whatever. And we started having a conversation, and slowly but surely, everybody kind of turned back, went back to their business, and just figured I was some dumb shit down there. Lost or doing something, which was true. I was a dumb shit that was down there and was lost. And everything kind of returned back to normal. Now, what I actually did there, Toby explained this to me, what I actually did there was I demonstrated that I wasn't a threat. And that's the two things that you want to do if you're in a situation where you have disturbed the baseline. You either want to get out of there or you want to establish that you are not a threat. And that is a good example that I have here that I can explain to you what that is. Now, also, the physical environment, I said about disturbing things in the woods and, kind of if you're actually hunting, you can go out into the woods, and if you sit down for a little while, eventually everything kind of returns to normal. Everything kind of returns to that baseline. So, when you're trying to just blend in and do your thing, you want to be at that baseline. And another example is, out shopping or something. If you're out shopping and everybody's kind of looking at their phone, they're doing their thing, everybody's shopping, putting stuff in their cart, they're checking out, everything's kind of at that baseline. But if, somebody drops something and, or somebody goes running through that doesn't look right to you, like all of a sudden just this random person will start running through a store. Now, I've actually seen that too. You'll be shopping or whatever, and all of a sudden somebody will just run through. And that's not normal. That's something that you want to that's something you want to pay attention to and kind of heighten your awareness of what's going on. Now, another example is social interactions. If you're with a bunch of people, there's 10 people all going out or something, and you get into a situation and one person in your group kind of is uneasy. They seen something, because we all have different life experiences. So something that I see that disturbs me might not necessarily disturb somebody else, and vice versa. If they see something that's not, doesn't really jive with them, and there's some type of anxiety, or there's something that doesn't seem right with them, hey, Bill's got something going on over here. I got to find out what this is, and kind of get some information from him. Hey, why? What's going on? And he can say, hey, well, I seen this over here, and there was another time I seen that this happened, or whatever. So paying attention to the people you're with can also help you interpret what's baseline and what isn't baseline. And like I said, it is basically an early warning system for you and the people that are around you, basically to detect danger and to detect something that's out of the ordinary, so that you can either correct that situation, or you can get out of there, because of course the best fight is the one that you're never in the first place. So it's it's a fight avoidance tool. And sometimes like with me in that Detroit Edison Payment Center, I was in no position to get into some type of confrontation where I was at. I was in no position for that. So the only things that I could do was either try to de-escalate that situation, or try to get out of there. And it all worked out. But if there's an SHTF situation and you can't de-escalate the situation, and you get into you can't get out of there, you can't recognize the early signs of danger, you could be injured. And an injury in an SHTF situation could be fatal, because there might not be any system to patch you back up after the fact. So the more things degrade, the more important things like this baseline principle, in my mind, is that we have these tools to recognize danger, recognize things that are out of the ordinary, so we can protect ourselves and protect the ones that we are with. And sometimes protection means getting out of there, not necessarily always going to some defensive measure. So I wanted to share this with you, and like I said, Toby was good enough to school me on this with an in-depth conversation that we had, and he agreed that me bringing this to you guys was a good idea to get this information out there. So I definitely wanted to do that. Now, I am also going to put a link for Toby and Selco's Patreon page in the description box of this video. It is the only Patreon channel that I belong to, is Toby and Selco's, and it's called the Resilience Hub. And I have gotten just tons of information off of their Patreon page, so I want you guys to know about it as well. So if you're on Patreon, you want to take a look at it, you can certainly do that. They have helped me out quite a bit over the years. So I just wanted to bring this to you guys. I appreciate all my subscribers out there. I hope you guys got something out of this video. This is one video also I'm going to ask you if you think somebody could benefit from this baseline knowledge. Please go ahead and share this video so they can kind of have this tool in their toolbox and realize it's a good situational awareness, and it's also a social interaction tool that can be an early warning system for them. But anyway, that's my interpretation of baseline. Hope you guys got something out of it. This is Modern Refugee. You guys take care.